No.
Well, hey, folks, we're live. It's been a day of some technical chaos on everybody's end due to this crazy storm. We're trying to get David Pepper in. We're not sure it's going to work. He's got a really shaky connection right now. You're lucky to even have my sorry ass because we lost power and internet for much of the day today. And I'm a little tired and cranky because I got swatted at 3 a.m. last night, which was a very par for the course MAGA tactic these days, where they believe that trying to get people killed is perfectly okay. With that, I want to start the night and just thank everybody for all the very kind words of support. I've been through this before. Renee, my fiance, had not been through this before. She's had it's been a pretty stark day for her, been a pretty shocking day for her. But she's tough and is rolling through it just fine. But it is not. It's not the country that we once lived in. Stuart, I did campaigns. You did campaigns 35, 40 years now, and I never, no matter how much I pissed off Democrats, I never got people trying to get me killed.
No, man. I mean, I come from the school that on election night after the polls close and you're waiting for the results, you call the consultants on the other side and say, hey,
Yep,
guys, good race.
many times.
Hope you lose. And you both laugh and they say, hope you lose. And then, you talk about it afterwards. I mean, that's how it should be.
Right.
You shouldn't. That's how civil. This is sort of the difference between a civil democracy and some sort of horror show of authoritarian where to lose means that the other side wants to kill you.
Yeah, folks. I will say this: it is a hell of a thing to wake up at 3 a.m, have the SWAT team knocking on your door, and guys with guns there, telling you put your hands up, and what they're hoping for is somebody will make a mistake, and come out with their own gun and get shot and killed. It's a really ugly world they live in. They're going to keep trying this kind of stuff. We dealt with law enforcement at several different levels today. So, and I've got a reward out for the verified identity of the person swatting me. I've got a $25,000 reward on offer for the verified proven identity of the person who did it. So if you're one of those weird incels out there who doesn't, who can do the math, $25,000 is a lot of chicken tendies. So if you're real and you can prove it, talk to us because heads will roll. Anyway, folks, listen, to move on from my story for tonight, and unfortunately it's a story a lot of other people have had this recent week. Jack Smith, Judge Chutkin, other folks I've talked to today who have not gone public yet, who were also swatted. We've got a lot of news in the hopper right now. And Stuart and I are going to talk to you a little bit tonight about the opening rhetoric of the Biden campaign, where he gave I thought, a hell of a speech this week, Stuart.
Yep.
And about the challenge his campaign will face from a fascist movement, from an autocratic movement. So let's roll a little bit of that video, and then let's talk about the kickoff of the Biden campaign.
Now in 2024, Trump is running as the denier-in-chief, the election denier-in-chief. Once again, he's saying he won't honor the results of the election if he loses. Trump says he doesn't understand. Well, he still doesn't understand the basic truth. That is, you can't love your country only when you win. You can't love your country only when you win. Well, I'll keep my commitment to be president for all of America, whether you voted for me or not. I've done it for the last 3 years, and I'll continue to do it. Together, we can keep proving that America is still a country that believes in decency, dignity, honesty, honor, truth. We still believe that no one, not even the president, is above the law. We still believe the vast majority of us still believe that everyone deserves a fair shot at making it.
You look at that speech, you listen to that speech, Stuart, and I hear the great rhetorical tradition of American politics.
Yeah, one thing about President Biden, uh, when big moments comes, he delivers.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually harder than people think. When you look back, every one of the State of the Union has been good. He gave a great speech at the convention. I thought the speech that he gave the night that finally, he was declared winner.
Right.
What, 3 days later, 4 days later, I forget.
Oh,
I thought
40
that was
better. Yeah, right.
a hell of a speech too. Um, and people kind of until you've been inside this stuff, like these, he has a day job. Like
Right.
the most tiring, exhausting, demanding day job in the world. And it's not like, you can set aside, I'm going to prep for this for 3 days and, do 100 rehearsals. And he still gets up there and hits it out of the park. Um, I've been impressed with the whole Biden operation from the start of the primaries when they ran. And they seem to have a very clear purpose as to why this guy is running.
Yeah.
Because you remember, when he got in and he lost those initial primaries. I mean, unfortunately, you and I both know what it's like to work for a front runner and then have him stumble.
Yes, indeed.
And there's such hydraulic pressure to change,
Right.
to try to do something magical, change the candidacy, change the message. I mean, it never or rarely, if ever, works. But the Biden people didn't do that, and Biden didn't do that. They said we're going to win or lose with the guy we've got and who he is. And damn if they didn't win, which,
It, it,
it's pretty incredible.
it really is I think the campaign, I want them to be active and push harder, but I think they also understand their candidate is remarkably good at the work when he really feels it, and when he really needs to put it on, he knows how to hit a home run.
Yeah,
And I think he's done a lot of speeches in the last few months where he showed that he's got an ability to rise up to the rhetorical moment and to be
yep.
in that great American rhetorical tradition and to speak to Americans in a way that is inspirational and aspirational and gives us a sense of why he gets this moment. And when a lot of Democrats, their natural instinct would be to say, "We'll make the race about insulin and prescription drugs
I
and
know.
build back better,"
Uh,
and that's the mistake. And Biden himself understands that. I think that he has to show up in this moment and perform at this level.
yeah, I mean, what I thought was so great about it was that it really kicked off the campaign. Now, like all campaigns, there'll be a lot of kickoffs in this campaign, but
Right.
the
You bite that
timing,
apple a few times.
yeah, the timing of January 6th, um, it, it, it gave them an opportunity to go out and lay down a marker of what they think is the most important issue in the race. And, the one thing we know about politics is that if you want voters to care about an issue, you have to care about that issue. You have to say it's important. There wasn't like a lot of polls that said that, hope and change was going to be like the number one
Right.
issue in 2016 or something, That wasn't like
Right.
focus group, well, we finally got this. They went out and made it important. Um, and you have to do that because people, you know, can sense when you don't believe what you're saying.
Hundred
And if you
percent.
if you're just going through the motion, and fate and history's a weird thing, but Joe Biden is, I think, uniquely prepared for this moment. It's a moment we never could have imagined coming, and
Right.
I think were it not in this moment, it he probably wouldn't have run for president. You know,
Yeah, I think that's right, and I
I mean,
think
the
there was
first
an
time.
intuitive. I think there was an intuitive thing with Biden himself that he realized there was a big field crowded full of Democrats who Donald Trump would have eaten alive. And I
Yeah,
think Biden's been around long enough to have the political instincts to know that when you've got a challenger like Trump, you can't just like bring out a 600-page policy book and read out loud from it. I will say this also. I think Trump is making Biden's job easier every
Mm-hmm.
week. The escalation of the authoritarian rhetoric, the increasing number of times he's just owning the authoritarianism. Like the scene today where he was asked by a reporter, "Will you tell your supporters not to exercise violence?" and he just walks away. These are easy 101 things, and I think he's giving Biden a lot of ways to frame up this race in a narrative frame that is stronger than the one the political media is focused on. Like the polling and
Yeah.
the horse race stuff is
Well,
one thing, but
yeah,
people are
I
going to
think
get
there's a good.
9 months or 10 months to ask themselves: do I want to see this? Is this who I want to be in my life? Is this the guy I want to
Yeah.
imitate? Do I want to have this in my kid's face every day?
Well, this is the whole sort of ludicrous nature of these polls that say, would you rather have another alternative? There's a reason that American chain restaurants have really long menus. You don't walk into Applebee's and they say, well, we're serving two things today, folks. People like choices. So, of course,
Right,
you're going to say, like, would you rather have something else? You go, well, show me. Maybe I would. Tell me about it. I don't know. I mean,
right,
that's just like
right.
sort of, it's very American anyway. I mean, we embrace the new. But when this comes down to two people, I think that these polls actually are, that to show Trump doing well, gives him this encouragement you're talking about.
Yeah,
Because there's probably people inside that campaign that are telling him, well, when you get asked about violence, it's good to just go through the motions of saying violence is bad.
right.
I mean, that's not like a controversial thing. Um, but Trump's going to say, well, why should I do that? It's working. I'm beating these, I'm beating, your governor, Rick. I'm beating Nikki Haley. I'm beating
Hmm.
everybody. I'm going to walk through this primary. So, I declared on the 30th anniversary of the Branch Davidian siege, I declared war on the United States basically when I announced. And hey, guys, it's going great.
I'm
So,
praising the Confederacy. I'm
yeah,
giving Hitler big ups. I
I
mean,
mean, I think it's kind of like jumping out of a 100-story window and you get to the 50th floor and it's going great.
yeah, right.
But,
You,
there's
things are,
probably going to be like a, reckoning there closer down.
got the wind in my hair and things are moving
Yeah,
swiftly.
thanks. I don't know what people were talking about. It's a, but Rick, I got to say, would you have ever imagined in 2024 that the one of the big controversies in the Republican primary is slavery? Slavery. Can you
It is
imagine
absolute,
being
and
being
you and I
working
both
for
being from the
Nikki
deep
Haley?
South, we grew up around this. We heard this more than most people, and under no circumstances could I have predicted that you would have Nikki Haley sort of punting on slavery, and of course Trump tripling down on it. There were good people on both sides, and my Confederates. It is an astounding moment that shows you the real collapse of the Republican Party
I
because of one big principle that they adopted. Steve Bannon has a rule that he's forced on the Republicans that they've adopted very eagerly. It's I have no enemies to my right. So they don't want to piss off the lost causers. They don't want to piss off the Klan guys. They don't want to piss off the neo-Nazi guys. They don't want to piss off all the weirdos and the freaks and the incels out there because they think every single part of their coalition has value. And the fact that we're wrangling over slavery in 2024, I mean,
can you?
I feel like I'm taking crazy pills.
I mean, can you imagine? So you're working for the Nikki Haley campaign, and you get this call and go, "Listen, we got to have a Zoom. She's really struggling with something." Go with what? Slavery. What
Right.
we have to help her.
Oh, ha,
We have
ha.
to help her work through her position on slavery. I mean, at that point, like you either blow your brains out or you start drinking. I
I
mean,
mean,
it's like really, I'm going to get on with somebody who wants to be president of the United States in 2024. We're going to work through slavery. Um, I find Nikki Haley just epitomizes what's wrong with the Republican Party.
the cowardice
Yeah,
and the indifference and the belief that she can portray two separate selves to the world now
right.
in 2024. The Nikki Haley in the donor meetings in New York with hedge fund guys and private equity bros and big real estate conglomerate people, where she is smooth and polished and smart and a product of the New South, and willing to take credit for taking the Confederate flag down after the Mother Emanuel murders, and she has that character, and then there's this MAGA adjacent, like not wanting to piss off the weirdos and the freak show of the Trump world, where she's so cautious and trims her sails so carefully. And I'm sorry, it is just look. I think Nikki has had a very good couple of months. She's taken all of that DeSantis juice and sort of made it her own. But this was a disaster, Stuart. I don't know how. If you and I were advising her, what do you even say after she's like,
Well,
her walk back on slavery?
the thing that kills me is, I think it would have been a nothing burger. She got asked about it, and she goes, she could almost laugh and go, well, if you're wondering, read the Declaration of Secession that my home state of South Carolina wrote. They made it clear it was about slavery. I don't think that there would have been like attack ads. Nikki Haley has a controversial view on slavery. The Civil War was fought over slavery. I think it just would have been like nothing. And
Right.
it's I don't think there's a lot of people out there that, well, I'm not going to vote for a candidate unless they think that the Civil War was really, the war of
It's
northern
in the most
aggression.
important problem panel. It's somewhere around
And
item 700.
I mean, look, man, I'm a seventh generation Mississippian named for Jeff Stewart. I think your average like white teenager in Mississippi would rather be a black rap star than Robert E. Lee. I mean, this moment is like past.
Yeah, I mean, and generationally, as you always say, we've got now 50% of the kids born in America are non-white, and as
Yep.
you say, chances are they're going to stay that way. How do you, as a party, continue this chain of defending something that essentially the audience for it demographically are are boomers and late Gen Xers, from a very narrow, like non-college educated white dude in the South. That's a pool that ain't getting any bigger right now.
Yeah, I think that's one of the big differences that is going to emerge in this campaign, and that is the uncomfortableness of the Republican Party, the uncomfortableness of Trump living in the modern world. So,
Yes.
think about it. They get in a culture war with Nike and Colin Kaepernick. So what happens? Nike made $9 billion. I mean,
Yeah.
they got a culture war. They were mad at NASCAR because they banned the Confederate flag.
Yep.
So how in God's name are you a Republican and you're in a culture war with NASCAR and
With
losing?
NASCAR,
I
right?
mean,
And
they got mad at Walmart when Walmart had a mask mandate there for a while.
right.
So you're fighting with Walmart and NASCAR? I
Right,
mean,
you're fighting with NASCAR and Walmart
it's like,
and Budweiser.
yeah, and Budweiser. That used to kill me. They go, we've got them now. They've changed the
Right, they're on
can.
the run. Those some
They're on
bitches.
the run. It's like,
And as Errol
I mean,
Soma just pointed out in our chat, DeSantis has the Florida curriculum
right,
that DeSantis approved has a section that children should be taught that slaves learned valuable skills because
it
of
was a
their
VOTEC program.
involuntary servitude. I mean, come on, people. But no,
Yeah.
it's Votech program from hell. But,
Yeah, if you'd only called them like agrarian interns,
right,
the whole thing could have been avoided. I mean, it's like,
the Cotton Core.
I mean, why? It's just,
No,
it's just,
it's so egregious, and I think you're right. I mean, the uncomfortableness of modernity with the Republican Party right now,
yeah,
and that includes things like the wild restrictions on abortion. It includes things like Mike Johnson being so in your face with this time machine vision of where women are in society. And we talked about this a lot. And as you pointed out, I mean, this really is an election where it's the past and the future. And
yeah,
ironically, the older guy, Joe Biden, is the guy who represents the future. And
no
Donald
doubt.
Trump and his people represent either the 1950s or the 1850s. It's hard to tell sometimes, but they represent going way back in time on race, on gender, on LGBT stuff, on society, in ways that I don't think Americans are prepared to accept at scale.
Yeah, no, I think it's a misjudgment of where the country is. You
Yeah,
know, I thought it was very telling when Trump tried to make an issue out of the scaring supposed white voters in the suburbs that someone who was non-white might move in next door.
right.
And, you know, I mean, the people we know who live in those suburbs, if a non-white family who are white, if a non-white family or Muslim family moved next door, you know, I think overwhelmingly most of them would go out of their way to show their kids that they're
Sure.
welcoming. They don't want to be that person. They don't want their kids
No.
to say, you know, well, mommy and daddy, you know, are haters. And
Yeah.
there's just nothing in our society that reinforces that as positive except these, you know, horrible little cesspools on the internet.
Yeah.
Um,
Right. And the people that are part of that whole, the white panic of, white replacement theory and all these things that are, they're like a microclimate. It's like San Francisco is a microclimate. These microclimates of weird racial beliefs and weird social beliefs that will not scale outside of the microclimate. It is. But when you get to Trump, if he feels like one of those is going to gain him even though like the scintilla, a momentary advantage somewhere, all of a sudden everybody in the Republican Party has to believe the same thing.
have to say the same thing. So
Right.
look,
In fact,
let's talk for
Elise
a minute.
Stefanik this weekend saying that the people who are in jail, who were tried by a jury and found guilty by a jury, who are serving prison sentences, were hostages. I don't know. I
Yeah,
would love to know
I
who he thinks is a hostage. Which
yeah,
one?
how did this happen that you and I joined a party we thought stood for law and order, joined
Right.
a party that was, you know, standing up to the Soviet Union,
Yep.
and now it's become the anti-law enforcement party. It's become the pro-Putin party. So look, can we just take a minute and talk about Tom Cotton?
Of
Because
course. Yeah, you
I
wrote a
mean,
great piece for the memo
I,
today.
I so for everybody out there that is blessed not to have your life filled with who Tom Cotton is, you know, I envy you. I want to be you. When I come back in the next world, I'm going to be you. But Tom Cotton is a senator from Arkansas. He is a very odd person, right? But he's not a dumb person. You know, he's
Right.
somebody that looks at him and you say, well, you know, this was like a product that they did, like they made this guy on Friday afternoon when they wanted to get off for work because he's just kind of unfinished. You know, he's sort of like, if there was a lemon law for humans, he would have like definitely classified.
Right.
But, you know, he went to Harvard, he went to Harvard Law School. He in the military and was real
Sure.
deal. He graduated from Ranger School, which is no small thing in my
No
book.
small thing.
I got a lot of respect for it. When you know, one of his major issues, to his credit, is standing by Ukraine. On January 6th, he put out one of the strongest statements
Yep.
condemning Trump. And here, if you missed it, folks, this past week, he issued not just an endorsement of Trump, but it was North Korean in its slavish devotion to Donald Trump.
Yep.
And I just, you know, I don't understand this. Like, why, Rick? What does he get out of it? He was reelected in 20. He's not like up. He's not going to lose the primary in Arkansas.
No.
What,
Look,
what is the motivation?
there are two things that I think motivate these guys now. Three things. They are afraid of Trump's base. They know that any dissent is punished furiously by his base. They want to be in the MAGA media ecosystem where they can go on Fox and they can go
Mm-hmm.
and do, all and exist in the Steve Bannon podcast and Alex Jones and all the crazy kooky stuff in the MAGA gene pool, in the MAGA, like petri dish. And the third thing is, this is how they raise their money now. Where he'll say,
Right.
"Did you see how outraged the libtard scum shill Soros, bought and paid for swamp reacted to my bold statement? Send me $5." And
Mm-hmm.
so this is a guy who is going to keep that thing going, even though, like Nikki Haley, he's a smart guy. Nikki's not stupid, y'all. He's a smart guy. He knows much better than this. And the fact that he for political advantage and greed and fear. Um,
It's
instead
just so
of
it's just
saying
so
the
weird.
name, it's just
You know,
insulting to everybody.
yeah, someone just posted a very good question. Is he vying for some sort of cabinet position? I can't imagine he'd rather be in the Trump cabinet than a U.S. senator.
Being a U.S.
And
senator is a good gig. Now he may be trying to replace Mitch McConnell. That's one theory I heard the other day.
oh,
I'm,
that makes a lot of sense,
and
actually.
I think there's
That makes sense. That's the best.
there's
That's
an
the best.
argument there
Yeah.
that he could try to put together a coalition.
But how? So and he also did this the week that Trump again mocked John McCain.
Right, right,
But ejecting and breaking both his shoulders from a burning plane and then being tortured for 5 years, so he can't lift his arms.
the this since 2015, this has been one of the great moral failure tests of Republican elected officials. Because in 2015, 99% of them came out and said, God damn it, this is outrageous. Donald Trump is
Yep.
outrageous. I will never vote for a scumbag who insulted my friend John McCain, including guys like Tom Cotton, including guys like Josh Hawley, Marco Rubio, Rick Scott. Go down the list. And by now, if the media bothers to even ask them about it, they say things like, well, John McCain, I've always had questions about John. Donald Trump is the dear leader, and he's right to do whatever he says he wants to do and to mock John McCain. It is the utter moral collapse of the party that you and I have witnessed for so long now.
So how does so riddle me this, man?
Yeah.
You got to assume that Tom Cotton has a lot of respect for the military, right? I mean, the
You would
guy,
hope.
he did serious stuff in the military. He was a real deal. He wasn't like, well, I won't attack JAG officers because I think JAG officers are needed. Ron DeSantis
Sure.
was one.
But let's be
David
honest.
French.
Ron DeSantis sat in a air conditioned trailer and did wills, probate, divorces, and repossessions for soldiers.
Well,
He was not
you're
out there
forgetting,
leading the legal
yeah,
battle against Al Qaeda.
Rick. You're forgetting he also did drug test urinalysis.
Well, there's that too.
No,
Just
let's talk. As opposed to our friend David French, who was a guy sitting at home with a young family watching the war in Iraq, decided that he had to do something,
right.
Left his very comfortable law practice,
Mm-hmm.
went and joined the military. Another, maybe he's a Harvard lawyer, another really, top level lawyer.
A
And
brilliant
he ended
lawyer.
up posted in a real shooting war outpost
Yep.
in Iraq, where did serious stuff and put his life at danger.
Right.
So, but how does that guy? How does Cotton go and look at his friends in the military in the face, and they're mocking John McCain, a POW? I just don't. I don't understand the lack of self-respect.
Yeah, it really is. It really is this. But look, once you get into that corruption, I think this is my theory of it. Once you get into
Mm-hmm.
that corruption, and you start to slide down in it, you're trapped. It's a one way slide down. You can't just hate John McCain a little bit in Trump world. You have to treat him like a traitor.
Yeah.
You can't just disrespect Anthony Fauci. You have to say you want to kill him or put him or hang him. You can't. All these people that get into this, and Cotton included, the jaws of the trap are like a ratchet. They only move one direction. It gets tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter.
It's a great
And
image. Yeah.
that ratchet is driven by a massive media operation on the right with Fox and everything else that punishes dissent. I mean, look, they hate Republicans who are not Trump supporters or not 100% with Trump more than they hate people who hate Trump. The apostasy
Oh,
is
100%. This is why you didn't get much sleep last night.
it's why
They
I didn't
don't
get much
like
sleep last night.
Democrats,
That's a fact.
but they hate you, but they see you as like a race traitor.
Yeah,
And
pretty
they
much.
hate you because you know who they really are.
Sure.
and you exposed it, and you are more dangerous. And that's one of the reasons, of over what $3 billion was spent in 2020 on
Right.
elections. The only group that Trump tried to get his attorney general to shut down was the Lincoln Project,
Correct.
and that's all your fault, Rick. It's your ads. It's your ads they hated. They knew that they exposed them, and,
Yeah.
and you know who they are. Um,
Yeah. And as an anthropologist to these people, it is, I expect the worst from them at all times. And I'm never disappointed. Hey,
yes.
we've got a few questions stacked up, folks. Let's
All right.
answer a
Yeah.
couple questions tonight. And thanks to everybody for joining in. We got a big audience tonight. We really appreciate it. Biden gave a great speech, but is anybody listening? You got to give that great speech about 15 times before the media starts saying,
Right.
"Oh, he's sticking with his democracy message." I mean, that's my take, Stuart.
Yeah. Look, I think you're at a stage where you can't win a campaign, but you can begin to lose it, and
Right.
you can begin to lose it by not having a sense of the campaign you're going to run. And you know, our our old friend Lee Atwater, at least my old friend, used to
Yep,
say, "You
I
got to
am.
dig. You got to dig the ditch you're going to die in,
Right.
and you got to be willing to take a stand on something." So I think you're going to hear those words a lot, and Donald Trump every day is going to go out and prove you right.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think he's going to consistently help Joe Biden campaign on the saving the American Republic and our electoral democracy. I mean, I think he's going to help us every day, and he'll generate a lot of the content that Biden can riff off of, and that we can riff off of. And it and again, it's a great question, Cynthia, but he does have to continually hit the ball on this over and over again. All right, let's hit the next question. How sure you guys SCOTUS won't uphold the 14th? I mean, I don't know. It I think there are political considerations inside the court that we've never had to deal with before, so it's hard to see whether or not their fear of Trump will overcome, and fear of some craziness will overcome what looks like black letter law. But I don't know, Stuart. I'm not a lawyer, and I don't pretend to be one.
Yeah, I don't look. I think that part of the problem uh, with Kavanaugh and Gorsuch is that they basically networked their way onto the court. You
Right,
know, um, Kavanaugh is the son of a very popular lobbyist. He worked in the Bush campaign when I worked in the Bush campaign. Um, he married a woman who's just a wonderful woman who was George Bush's personal assistant. Everybody
right,
loved. He worked for Bush. This is a guy who networked his way on the Supreme Court.
yeah,
Gorsuch's mom was in Reagan's cabinet. So their social standing in their world is part of that group. And you're
right.
not asking them, to just rule what they think is correct. I think it takes something they probably don't have.
Yeah, and look, I don't know where John Roberts comes down on all this. Um, and look, there's some chance that the court just says, "Hey, sorry, Donald, but I don't think we live in that world anymore, Dennis." It's a great question. I wish I was a smart constitutional lawyer, but I'm not. Next question. No, absolutely not. I think Trump would not pick Haley for VP for a number of reasons. Racial, she's been disloyal in his head. She's fumbled the ball. I think if she had not blown the slavery question in a weird way, she would have been higher in the consideration. But now she's made mistakes. She's shown vulnerabilities, and that's my take, at least.
Yeah, listen, you've made this point, and I think you're dead right. Trump is not going to pick anyone for which the first paragraph is going to be many thought that the ticket should be reversed, that
Right,
that person is better qualified to be president. So,
right.
you know, I he's not going to sit there like most nominees with who could actually be president if I died or got hit by a truck. It's going to be the
Right.
opposite. It's like who would remotely not be president. So that's how you end up with Mike Pence, a guy
Sure.
who was about to lose a race for reelection as a Republican governor in Indiana, which
Which,
is no
folks,
small
Indiana
feat.
is basically like
You really,
Pakistan. It's so
you
conservative.
really, you really have to work at it. I mean, and he was going to lose that race, and then he ends up being his vice president. And he's just a nothing human being.
Yeah, I think it really is. I think it really is. I mean, Elise Stefanik wants it more than anything in the world, which is why she's done the hard makeover and all the the Ozempic and everything else. So she looks the part. Trump wants someone out of central casting, as he tells people all the time. That's why he had an infatuation for a while with Carrie Lake. That's why he had an infatuation for a while with Kristi Noem. Noem is still in the hunt, from what I hear, but it's going to be a very look, guys. It could be Tucker for all we know. So,
Yeah,
well,
and the one thing we do know pretty much statistically is um, it's not going to affect how the election turns out.
no, it never does.
There's really
Well,
very
almost
little
never does.
evidence that any vice presidential candidate impacts who's going to be impacts people's vote.
Yeah,
Um,
I think that's right. I mean, it is. It's a very rare case where the VP nominee actually hurts the ticket, and it's an even more rare case where it actually helps the ticket. So,
yeah, there's three moments in a vice presidential campaign. The moment you're picked, you
yep,
don't want to blow that, like Dan Quayle did when they
like
picked him
Quayle
up from
did.
Bourbon Street.
So
Literally,
I was standing on that damn
he
dock.
literally was walking down Bourbon Street. Hey, dude, coming out, like you with the hurricane glass in your hand. How would you like to be vice president? He
Right,
goes, I'm in. I'm in.
I'll
So
take it.
you don't want to blow that moment. You don't want to blow. You have to be good at your convention speech,
Yep,
and you have to be good in one debate. You
yep,
have to be adequate,
yep.
and that's it. Otherwise, you have to be somebody who's just not going to go out there and constantly uh, get in the news by screwing up.
Yeah, it's
I
crazy.
like Kristi Noem. I think Kristi Noem. I mean, not that I like Kristi Noem, but I like if I was putting
I
odds
like
of
the
Vegas.
odd.
I like the odds. Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, listen, folks. I want to thank you all for joining us tonight. It is 7:40 now on the East Coast. We're going to wrap the show up for tonight. David Pepper is confirmed for next week. We will work to kill more gremlins and make sure that he has a good signal for the show next week. Really appreciate you guys, Stuart. I appreciate, as always, a great conversation. I want to thank you guys for watching us this evening, and we will see you again next Tuesday.
And if you make sure you listen to the Enemies List, Rick's fantastic podcast, and
And the
Joe
Trivia
Trippi's
Show and the
um,
Lincoln Podcast. And the
and the
Zero
Lincoln
Line.
Project
We got a
podcast.
lot of
Listen to
got a lot of podcasts out there running around.
Yep, but smart stuff being said.
Thanks, everybody.
All
Have a
right,
great
Rick, get
night.
some sleep, man.
I'm gonna.